Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman with all kinds of news the networks refuse to use. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Our goal is to promote God, family, and country, and to protect life, liberty, and property. All right, I want to talk about two friends for a second. Tom Hartman's one of them. Great talk show host, very liberal. I'm conservative. We don't agree on a lot of things, but we agree on way more things than we disagree, number one. Number two, he's just the nicest guy in the world. And so I love talking to him because he understands how to discuss things in a very passionate, but yet kind, respectful, appropriate way. Well, Michael Harrison over at Talkers Mag, another dear friend, believes the same, does a great job. I don't understand how Michael does this. For literally 30 plus years, this guy has managed to navigate the left and the right and do so and have friends all across the board. It's incredible how these guys do this. And so I wanted to bring Michael Harrison on with me because he did a great interview on YouTube with Tom Hartman, and they had a lot of valuable points to make. Hi, Michael.
Hey there, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
You betcha. So your conversation was fascinating to me. I watched the whole thing, and you navigated things so well. The question is, hey, is Trump violating the First Amendment? And I think the answer is yes, to a great degree. You know, they complained a lot when, hey, the conservatives were being deplatformed. But then now it's turned around and now they're trying to deplatform liberals. And you guys talked about, you know, the comedians overnight and how they're commentators as well, even though they have a different twist, a different stick than maybe conservative talk radio. Really, in essence, it's the same. And do you want to speak to this? Because your conversation was riveting.
Well, this is an issue that frustrates me because I try to categorize things accurately. And that's one of the reasons I've had a successful career in the trade publishing business. You know, even back in the days when I was in music radio, you know, what's the difference between a soft rock station and a hard rock station, a country station and a top 40 station? You know, categorization is very important so that we understand what we're talking about. And when we can't categorize the different players under the umbrella of talk radio or talk media, then we have a problem. And the fact is, being funny doesn't mean you're not news, and being news doesn't mean anything at this point, because we're looking back at the days when licensed broadcast, you know, channels were a scarce commodity. It was the public airwaves. You had to be mindful of the fact that all these different people are sharing access to these limited number of channels, and that's why the FCC regulated what was being programmed. But in this world, and for the past 20, 30 years, it's built up to this, the line between what we call entertainment and what we call journalism, news, is a very blurry line indeed. As a matter of fact, I don't even think the line exists anymore. So you got to be very careful when you let the government infringe upon choosing what it thinks is appropriate, particularly in political speech, what it thinks is appropriate for the public airwaves, and what's news and what's entertainment. And we are all mucked up at this point about that. And if we allow the government to regulate the comedians on television late night under the misguided notion that that's not news, then we're really in trouble, because whatever it is that you give the government power to regulate can happen back to you and your own party and your own ideology the next time the election cycle comes around. So, I mean, left or right or center, we're all in this together. And it frustrates me to see our wonderful industry of talk media so divided, so political, and so weaponized that we don't see that. And so conservatives should be supporting liberals, and liberals should be supporting conservatives. That's always been my philosophy and the talkers' philosophy in protecting our mutual First Amendment rights.
Hey, you know what? These comedians at night have every right to say what they want to say. And you guys brought up a critical point that I want to highlight because I think it's vital to understand. It acts as a safety valve. Michael?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. it's a safety valve for our society. I unfortunately am very frustrated with Donald Trump. I have not been a Trump basher. I've not been a Trump supporter, no more than I have dealt with any president.
Michael was saying he's not a Trump supporter, he's not a Trump basher. And I really like that. What I try to do is when I believe that something is correct based on principles, then I support those principles. And if I believe something is incorrect based on principles, then I say that it's incorrect based on principles. And I'm not here to attack Donald. I'm not here to attack anyone. I'm also here to defend, in my opinion, what I believe to be the proper role of our nation, which is to follow the supreme law. After it all, it is the supreme law. But while we get Michael Harrison back, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Harrison is the founder, editor, and publisher of an incredible trade magazine called Talkers Magazine. It's over at talkers.com. And many of the people in radio and even TV and podcasters and all kinds of people literally watch this because it used to be called Talkers Magazine because it was talk radio, but now it's really talk media. I mean, what is radio when it's on the internet? What is it when you can listen anytime you want to, start a podcast over? And, all these terms are getting blurred, but at the end of the day, there's commentators on all kinds of media, and we have the opportunity to express ourselves. And why does one person, just based on their quote format, say comedians, overnight TV, why do we want to think that's different than, say, the newsman on, say, ABC or on Fox or wherever else? And Michael, your point is that, hey, this is a safety valve. People kind of blow off their steam. You were mentioning that you're not a Trump supporter or a Trump basher, but that you try to walk this line, and you've done so well in the talk media world for 30 plus years. I like to base my views on principle. I'm not here to attack Donald or attack anybody else. I'm here to, in my opinion, back things based on principle as I see them. And as long as I do it civilly and kindly and respectfully, then I think, hey, I should be able to do that, right?
Absolutely. Sorry that we dropped our line there before. I don't know what I said or didn't say. So if I repeat myself, forgive me.
You're doing
but
great, sir.
I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated by Donald Trump. I've tried to be fair to him as I try to be fair to all presidents, and I've been covering presidents for decades. We've been publishing Talkers Magazine for 36 years. We still call it a magazine, just like we call radio, whether it's heard on an AM or an FM dial or heard on your refrigerator. Radio is an aesthetic, as is a magazine. Magazine is an aesthetic. One of the things that I had mentioned, and I don't know if it came across, was that we have to be very, very modern and diligent in our categorization of things so that we know what we're talking about, because categories change as technology and sociology and the communications industry changes. So, that's one of the things we're dealing with right now. What is radio? What is Hollywood? I personally think Hollywood is dead, and that's a whole other discussion that I'm getting into in terms of my work. But we need to hold all politicians accountable. And it's very dangerous when the media or the news or the press or whatever we call ourselves today becomes a mouthpiece, an arm of any political party or any elected official. We should only give our support very carefully and very temporarily. We should rent our support to them, not give it wholeheartedly. And Donald Trump has become such an iconic figure within conservative talk radio that to attack Trump's policies for a very long time, I think it's changing now, was to attack the very essence of conservative talk radio. And so many things that Donald Trump is doing are not conservative. That's one of the things that Hartman and I talk about in our interview. A lot of the things that Trump is doing actually are liberal, or not liberal or conservative. They're whimsical. But I've left him alone because I don't get involved in that. But the one thing, and here's the point, Sam, the one thing that I and Talkers Magazine have been strong and opinionated and vigilant about has been the First Amendment. And now Trump is clearly screwing around with the First Amendment. So I have to speak out, as much as I wish I didn't.
Donald Trump in the State of the Union picked out some people, and he didn't exactly name everybody, but he pointed the finger pretty good, which I wasn't pleased with. He was pro-America, which I really loved. There was a lot that I loved about his speech. There was a lot that was of concern. They literally shouted out and screamed against Donald Trump. So both sides, in my opinion, kind of had a problem there. There's a time and place for things. And John Fetterman broke with the Democrats and said, hey, how dare you? He urged civility and respect and said, don't do that. This isn't the right place to do that. And then, you got free speech, funny lines, and civility. I support the ability to say what you want to, but I do think there's a time and place. It's time to discuss it on late night TV. It's time to discuss it on talk radio. But when you're at an event where he's president and he's speaking about the State of the Union, just for respect for the oaths of office and who they are, and I think that, hey, a more civil tone in the State of the Union would be wise. CNN even pressed Omar on this disruption. And this is a reminder that I think time and place matters. I think you can use the First Amendment properly, but I think we have a responsibility there too a little bit. What do you say?
I think that's clear. I mean, the First Amendment doesn't give you the right to, first of all, expect everybody to leave you alone and not respond to what you're saying. It doesn't protect you from negative blowback, which is the First Amendment rights of those people that disagree with you. Behavior is a very different thing. Responsibility is a very different thing. I mean, if people act poorly and they go, well, it's my First Amendment right to act poorly. Yeah, and it's my First Amendment right to think you're a jerk. There's no, the First Amendment doesn't guarantee you a soapbox. It just guarantees you that you're not going to be censored by the government. It doesn't mean private business can't censor you. It means people can't turn you off. It means that sponsors can't boycott you. It means that you're not immune to any negative blowback. You have to face the consequences of your opinion, and you have to face the consequences of your behavior. And so when we see the State of the Union, and it's not just Trump, go back to Obama, go back to Bush, go back to Clinton, go back to whoever it is, and the people in the Congress, the representatives and the senators and the cabinet and the Supreme Court, all in this, the hallowed grand hall of the Capitol building, acting like jerks because they're so political and so obsessed with their team, their tribe. It doesn't feel good. It isn't right. It is not worthy of our nation's, environment, of our image as a nation. The world is looking on, and you make a very, very good point. There's a difference between behavior, appropriate behavior based on the circumstances, and the core value that the United States government or any government does not have the right to censor you.
And I wrote an article back in 2015. It came out in 2016 called A Clarion Call for Civility, because I saw the temperature change. And you and Tom highlighted that very point towards the tail end of your interview, where Tom said, hey, I used to have conservatives on all the time, and we used to have these dialogues and debates and discussions, and I wish we could bring those days back. Do you want to speak to that? Because I think that really kind of tells the tale, doesn't it?
It tells the tale indeed. And one of the things that has changed gradually over the years has been the targeting of audiences as opposed to the gathering of audiences. The media, whether it's left or right or whatever it is today, tries to find vacuums out there among the general listenership and give them information, give them programming that they will like, that they will agree with. You can't even have somebody on the air who expresses a different point of view in a debate. Not at all. You just give them one thing after another of cherry-picked news items that fit your narrative. And this is destroying the credibility of the media, and it's destroying the ability of the media to give the general American public an overview of what's happening so that general Americans can choose and decide for themselves. And, just tell the people listening in our target audience what they want to hear, and let's find examples that boost that so they can get their daily dose of dopamine through the daily dance of affirmation. And, you could find good things. Yeah, you can
I
you
think it's
can
dollars
find
that drive a
anything.
lot of that.
Dollars is what drives the whole thing, and that's the problem. When capitalism goes out of control and is run and driven by greed, it's no better than any other system. Systems don't have virtue by themselves. Systems are only guidelines and tools for people of virtue to be able to enact the daily operation of government or whatever it is. You can have a good system, but if it's run by bad people, you're going to have a bad system. And we've lost sight of that. Oh, you're a communist. I'd rather have I don't like communism at all. You know that. I am against it, but I'd rather have a good communist than a bad capitalist. I ultimately
It's just too far extreme, and again, it betrays the whole point that we're making. Let me just
exactly.
quickly tell you
But
a
we're
story
there.
about how I know Tom. How I met
Yeah.
Tom, believe it or not, is he used to interview conservatives back in the day. This is years ago. And I was with Richard Mack, Sheriff Richard Mack, and Tom invited conservative Richard Mack on his show, and I happened to be with Richard, and we went to Washington, D.C., and I went to Tom's studio, and I met Tom, and they had this incredible discussion debate. They did not agree, by the way. Tom and Richard Mack didn't agree, but they discussed things so civilly and so mature and respectfully that I walked away going, I think Tom's great. And then I had him on my show a couple of times, and we've been friends ever since. Then I went in 2024 to your event, Talker's event, and you had Tom and Mike Gallagher have a debate. And I thought, how refreshing. They didn't attack each other personally. They made their points. I'm sure both sides walked away agreeing with whatever side they believed in, but they were, in my opinion, they were gratified. They were increased in their knowledge. They hopefully saw the other person's point of view a little bit more clearly because the debate wasn't personal. It was discussed respectfully, with honor and integrity. They made their points. They sparred back and forth, but they did so, in my opinion, as Americans. Michael?
Mm-hmm. It was mutually beneficial. And that's the point. At our conferences, we don't allow that time of name calling and hatred and animosity. We are broadcasters. We have other things in common. You know, when politics becomes the definition of who you are, what you are, who you hang with, and who you like and don't like, when politics becomes your identity, it generally leads to an imbalanced way of thinking and living. There are more things in life than just politics. Politics is a necessary evil. It keeps us from shooting each other and killing each other. It's a way in which we can settle our different interests. And when I say interests, I don't mean what you like to think about. Interests means your money and your property and your wealth. We settle these issues through politics, through elections, through debate, and that keeps us from being at each other's throats literally as well as figuratively. And when we lose that, it doesn't take much to slide into chaos and into a very dangerous situation. Civil wars are the ugliest wars. They're the bloodiest wars. They're the ugliest wars. And we're already in an ideological and a media civil war in our country. And we've got to put the brakes on it because no one's going to win that one. I only wish that the Trump administration and Donald Trump would understand that they don't have to divide us for them to maintain a base that will keep them in power.
This free speech matters. The First Amendment is sacred, in my opinion. Choosing the right time and place matters as well. We need to realize, yes, you have free speech, but you also have responsibility. Time and place is important. And I agree with Tom and his point at the end of your interview where he says, you know, hey, these conservatives won't even come on my show anymore because it's hard for them to defend their positions. I would hope we could get back to the point where liberals and those who disagree with me will come on my show for a fair, honest discussion where they might understand my point of view. I might be able to understand their point of view. I can go on their shows and they won't feel threatened that I'm just going to, you know, destroy them or they're going to destroy me or whatever the case may be. I pray for the return of the days, as Tom does, that we can, hey, have an open discussion, let the people decide. All boats rise when that happens, Michael.
Yeah, the future of talk media depends upon that. Otherwise, talk media is just another divisive element in our problem, in our growing problem in America. So, back to Tom Hartman and Mike Gallagher, they walked off that stage shaking hands and being friends because they engaged in a very productive, mutually beneficial event. And when you have good debate and you're friends with your competitor, well, that's Americanism. I think Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan were buddies, and they were harsh opponents politically on the stage during the time that Tip O'Neill was, I think, Speaker of the House and Reagan was president. But they didn't hate each other. We're not supposed to be that divided. We're supposed to have a left and a right view of the same issues. But right now it's out of hand. And the First Amendment is one of our only ways back. And if it becomes besmirched by weaponization or government edict, we have big problems. And it doesn't matter whether you're Jimmy Kimmel or you're Tom Hartman or you're Sean Hannity or Sam Bushman. It doesn't matter whether you're left or right. We should have mutual respect. We shouldn't be all that different. And we should not allow the government to tell us what we can talk about, because that is the end of freedom in America.
/Michael Harrison interview. You can go to talkers.com or look for it on YouTube. It basically talks about, hey, you know what, are we infringing on the First Amendment? And I think both sides of the aisle in recent times have done that. And I think it's a problem, and I think it needs to stop. By the way, you did an incredible another video that I want to tease right before the end of the hour for people to watch. You're an immigrant, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's called The Immigrant, and it starts out with me saying, I am an immigrant. I come from a faraway land to which I can never return. It's only 2.5 minutes. It's a lot of fun. I won't give the punchline because it kind of has a twist. Have your listeners check us out at YouTube by just going on YouTube and plugging in @Talkers Media. And we have a whole bunch of interesting things, including the Tom Hartman interview and this new thing, The Immigrant, which we're getting a lot of reaction to. And I appreciate it.
You're also part of a band, which I think is pretty cool, where you do a lot of parody songs that kind of mock, on one hand, the environment that we're in a little bit, but at the same time, you make salient points about, in my mind, solutions, ways that we can improve and work together and kind of laugh at one another, laugh at ourselves a little bit, but at the same time, really hammer home critical points. Music is one way we do that. Comedian and their deliveries are one of the ways we do that. We've got to take a step back and laugh at ourselves, Michael.
We have to really be a little bit lighter and not take ourselves so damn seriously. Absolutely, Sam. Thanks.
Michael Harrison, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll have you back soon. Talkers.com is his website. Talkers Media, or @Talkers Media on YouTube. Check it out. Fun stuff. We all got to learn to work together, ladies and gentlemen. After all, we're going to be here together for a long time. At least I hope I'm around for a long time. That's all I've got to say. And I guess I'm an immigrant too, in the sense Michael brings out. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. I'm Sam Bushman. You're watching the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live, ladies and gentlemen. Check us out everywhere. YouTube, Rumble, your favorite platform, on your radio. We are syndicated by the Loving Liberty Network. LovingLiberty.net. Spread the word, share the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America.